Big Daddy here with a look at Linux Mint 18 Mate Edition. Now, you may be wondering why I am reviewing or looking at an edition, an operating system that came out in June. Well, I guess I'm behind the times, right? Maybe, but there is another reason. I recently installed Ubuntu Mate and am using that on my main system to check it out, and I figured I would then install Linux Mint and see what the differences are. Well, I installed this Linux Mint onto a second hard drive in the computer to test out the differences. So I will be doing a video on the differences, the pros and cons and whatnot on both Ubuntu Mate and Linux Mint. But hopefully this doesn't turn into that. Hopefully this is just a review of Linux Mint to start out with. So, starting out at the application launcher, it is a very nice laid out application launcher. I think it's one of my favorite out of all of the distributions out there. I think only the whisker menu would be better than this, and that's on XFCE, and that's only because you can kind of customize it the way you want. You can make it larger, smaller, bigger, whatever you want. A lot of customization going on there, but as far as nice menus, this is a pretty nice menu. As far as software, Linux Mint offers the normal software. They install software so that you can be up and running right away. But they also offer their own applications which they feel make it nicer, and it does. It makes it real nice. The USB image writer and USB stick formatter is one that you will find on any Linux Mint edition operating system, and they work pretty well. I usually use Etcher or OpenSUSE, but these I have used and have worked every time I've used them, so I have never had a problem with them. Graphics. You have, well, let's start out with, well, you have GIMP installed, but you have Image Viewer, which is X Viewer, actually, is the real name for it. And what this is the X is part of what they call X apps, and they are basically, in a nutshell, they're a set of apps that they put out that will work on any of their Linux Mint distributions. They'll look the same, they'll act the same. So whether it is KDE or Mate or Cinnamon or XFCE, they will be there. They will be the same looking. They will act the same, and they'll be across the board. And you can pretty much install them on other operating systems as well. So X Viewer is the image viewer. You have Xedit, which is the text editor. That's based off of Pluma. The image viewer was based off of IonGNOME, I believe. And you have a PDF reader as well. And I think there's one more too that slips my mind here. But it's a set of applications that Mint provides that, like I said, it's one more added reason of how far they go to customize an operating system that make it nice. For internet, you have Firefox, Thunderbird, have a couple extra ones, Pigeon and Transmission, which I don't use. I don't use HexChat either, but this is nice for people who want to come in and don't want to have to install all kinds of software. Now, it is not for somebody who wants a bare bones system, but it's pretty nice to have the software if you don't want to have to go install it yourself. For video, they have VLC, but here is their X app, X player for, it's called videos in here, but it's actually their X app for playing videos. And they have Banshee for music. System tools, normal system tools. They do come with the backup tool, which comes in all the, that's another tool that comes with all the Linux Mint OSs. and their software manager. Now, with this Mate version, you have Synaptic installed already by default, which isn't in other distributions. So they put a lot of time and effort to make it to where you can just install this, boot it up, and use it, and not have to worry about installing a lot of software. So you have your show desktop and quick launchers, you have the panel, and you can resize the panel, make it as big, or I don't think you want it that big, do you really? No, you don't want it that big. But you can make it bigger than what it is. You can customize the colors and whatnot. As far as updates, the way Mint works is it has, and I'm not sure what the number versions of these are, but Don't Break My Computer would be pretty much only, I would think, only like ones, where it's like absolutely imperative that you install this. Optimize and Stability and Security is 1, 2s, and 3s, and they come checked. Now the 4s and 5s show up in the updates, which are kernel updates and other things that they haven't actually vetted out, but only the 3s, 1, 2s, and 3s are actually checked for you to install. Now if you hit always update everything, that's going to update everything including the kernel, which, you know, in certain situations isn't a bad thing, but in certain situations it could lead to crashes or instability. So talking about instability, I have not had one crash yet since installing Linux Mint. And I can't say that for Ubuntu Mate. So this is a very stable, very productive, I guess, oriented operating system. So here you see I have already updated the system, so it doesn't need updated, but this would be a Linux kernel update, which would be in the 5s, which I have it set to not install automatically. So they will always be there unless you hide them. I don't hide them, I just leave them there. So, and then you have the clock and the panel indicators and whatnot. So if you go into the control center, they have, you know, here's another situation where Mint goes out of its way to install a driver manager so that you can update the NVIDIA drivers and the actually I put the wrong password in, update the video drivers for your card so that you don't have to go install it manually. Now you can install it manually, but you know, it just makes this. Why is this not coming up? Did I not put the right password in? Of course I did. So, hey, look at that. A real-time thing of something that went wrong. What do you know? Another Big Daddy video, because every time I do a video, something goes wrong. Anyway, I guess we'll just leave that code for the moment. That may be due to having two users logged in. I actually made a mistake. Can you believe it? This does not come with Mate Tweak installed, like you see here. So I was wondering why. So I installed it, and long story short, when you go into the differences, I wasn't going to get into the differences, but when you just come into Linux Mint and you don't install Mate Tweak, then what you have is this, you normal stuff in the Tweak, but when you come to the Windows or the in Mate Tweak, it's called interface. These are the differences of what you see, or how less of you have as far as being able to tweak something. So you have your windows here, and it's just a little bit more in Mate Tweak. So we're all Marco and compositing, which doesn't give us wobbly windows or anything like that, which is okay. But what I did was, you see this little, and I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to mess everything up again, but this is grayed out here. Not grayed out. It's just blank. Okay. And that's in Ubuntu Mate. You have like five or six different choices of the layout of the desktop. And if you click this right now, you're going to have Fedora and GNOME. But if you click it, that's all you have is Fedora and GNOME. You can't get back to the blank space, so you have to click one of them, and it changes the whole desktop. And so I had to create a new user because I couldn't figure out how to get it back. Because those settings are not here, so there's no reset. I mean, maybe there is a way to reset it. I just don't know of it yet. So it has less settings, and it doesn't have Mate Tweak installed. But where was I even going with that? Does anybody know? Anyway, it does work pretty well. I mean, I'm not going to say it works pretty well. It works extremely well. If you're looking for a rock solid, just works operating system, then Linux Mint Mate is like the perfect combination, because you have the stability of Linux Mint. You have the customizations that they do, including, I didn't talk about the login screen, but the login screen is another thing that Linux Mint does that really customizes it. I mean, okay, so it's only a login screen, but man, does it look nice. And it goes off of multiple wallpapers, and I mean, obviously you can customize the icons and whatnot. You can customize anything about it. And one thing that you can do is you can enable the number locks on the login screen as well, which in some other cases you have to add text files to do that. So the customization that they do goes a long way, and you have that rock solid Linux Mint operating system, and then you have the Mate desktop environment, which pretty much works on any kind of hardware and runs well and is customizable. It has come so far in being able to customize. Now this is running Mate 1.14. Ubuntu Mate is running 1.16. Now, as far as I could tell, when I read over everything, the differences are mostly having to do with updating for GTK 3 to be able to work better with those applications. So yeah, there were a lot of changes and a lot of fixes, a lot of upgrades for Mate 1.16. But you're not going to lose anything by being on this, by being on 1.14. And that's what I was aiming to find out is, is it worth the upgrade? Is it something that you should upgrade? Otherwise, you're missing out on a lot of features. As far as I can tell, it was plenty of upgrades, but it was mostly to do with GTK3 apps. And that's not something that you need for functionality, for it working on an everyday basis. Yes, it's very nice, but like I said, if you're looking for a rock solid operating system, Linux Mint is just that. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'm going to, like I said, hopefully in the near future make a video on the differences, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, and which one would you choose? Linux Mint 18 with the stable Mate version, or would you go with Ubuntu Mate, which has the updated version and has its own awesome features in its own right? So until next time, Big Daddy out.